Welcome to this video about custom columns in Google Ads. First, I'm going to start with a note about columns in general. And the first thing is that it really matters which columns you use, because some metrics are just much better than others at helping you to assess and achieve a profitable outcome. There's a nice quote along these lines that goes something like, "You get what you measure." I would give you the source, but it seems to be disputed who first said it. But anyway, it sounds like an axiom that has some truth to it. And with that in mind, you clearly want to be measuring something as close as possible to the ultimate success that you're trying to achieve. Now, any metric is clearly going to be an imperfect measurement of success, but some are much less perfect than others. So one clear example of this is how conversion value is usually much better than conversions as a success metric. Conversion value gives you much greater flexibility and the ability to differentiate the value of different user actions that you want to aim for. So you can be much more precise and much more accurate in measuring success. For that reason, it's often worth assigning values to your goals, even if you have to estimate them quite roughly, and even if the action itself doesn't have any clear immediate value associated with it. If you're advertising for lead generation, then in most cases you're probably using some form of inquiry as the conversion. And in most cases it's probably a conversion without a conversion value associated with it. When I have this kind of account, I usually assign estimated values to the different conversions, especially if there's some way that I can differentiate between different inquiries, types of inquiry, or ideally types and quality of lead. So one example, and it's quite a typical one, is I have a client where we're tracking click to call on the website, click to email, and a submission of an inquiry form. And based on some information that I've managed to get from the client, as well as using my own experience and assumptions about the values of different inquiry types to fill in the gaps, and this is of course based on conversion rates from ultimate inquiry to paying customer, and the value of a paying customer, lifetime value would be the gold standard there. We can assign different estimated, highly estimated of course, values to the different types of conversion. I go through the process of doing that in lesson 7 of my course. I'll link to that below. Now, if you do this, if you estimate those values and assign those values to your conversions, then you get access to this new metric, conversion value, which you can use alongside conversions. Of course, you still have conversions and CPA if you want to use those, but now you'll also have conversion value and return on ad spend as additional and better, frankly, measurements of success. Now, this whole principle of getting what you measure and making sure that you're measuring the right thing, the best measurement of ultimate success, is particularly important with smart bidding. That's because the smart bidding algorithms are fairly blind to the context of the account and the advertiser, but they have a very clear sort of line of sight to whatever it is you tell them to go after in terms of what the conversion is or what the value is that's being measured. So you want to make sure that you give them the right end goal and steer them in the right direction. And again, this is valuable even if they're just roughly estimated values. So even if you differentiate the value per goal in a way that's even slightly more accurate than just having a flat value for every goal that there is, then you can align the algorithm's aims better with your own than you would using conversions alone. So that's one of the big things about columns in general and why it's important which columns you use. Then there's a lot you can do with custom columns. Some custom columns are useful in general, and some will be useful for specific cases. Some examples of generally useful custom columns are columns like profit, which would be conversion value minus cost. It's ridiculously simple, but it gives you an instant view as to the profit or loss of each line item. And you can take that a massive step forward by turning it into something like net profit, factoring in the profit margin. So say profit margin is 20%, then you would apply conversion value times 0.2 minus cost. Now that's going to give you something like a net profit and give you a clearer picture of what actual value you're generating from your activity. And then there's one of my favorites, which is impression conversion rate. So that's conversions divided by impressions. and formatted as a percentage, which you can do by this drop down in the custom columns creator. And that can be used to give you a view of which ads are generating the most conversions, factoring in both click-through rate and conversion rate in a single metric. So those are generally useful custom columns, and I'll link to my blog post 7 useful custom columns if you want some more examples of those. And then there are specific use cases for custom columns. I have a good example of this at the moment. So I have a travel client who wants to measure all of their success as cost divided by revenue, which is officially called the efficiency ratio. I don't know why they want to do this. It is an inverse of ROAS and directly or inversely proportional to ROAS, but they do, and they want to keep everything under 15% by that metric. So this can be created very easily as a custom column, and we can get a clear, immediate view of how every campaign and how every ad group and keyword and ad is doing on that particular metric. So remember the option of custom columns when you have anything at all non-standard that you want to measure. And again, I will link to the 7 useful custom columns article in the description below. Okay, I hope you found this useful. If you did, then feel free to subscribe or download my free guide, 5 advanced tips for Google Ads, which I'll also link to below, along with some other options. But for now, this is Phil Taylor, PPC strategist. Until next time.